Using the virtual scope sheet in global mode is a very powerful tool within SimSol. It's a very time efficient tool as well. The primary function of global mode is it allows you to go into your estimate and adjust the price to an item estimate wide without having to go into each individual area and make your adjustments accordingly. Not only can you edit a repair item estimate wide, you can also add items or remove items from your estimate with just a couple clicks, once again without having to go into each individual area and spend a lot of time making those adjustments after you've completed the estimate. So let's dive into a claim and I'll show you the global mode for the virtual scope sheet. The first thing I'll do is I'll select a claim here that I know has multiple areas in it. So as I go into this claim and I go to the building estimate scope of damage screen, once again this is the screen that lists all the areas that I've created for this estimate thus far. Now global mode can be used after you've created the estimate and you're just kind of fine-tuning some things after you're done, or you can also use it to write your actual estimate from the very beginning. But for the purposes of this video, I'll show you how to adjust repair items after we've written the estimate. And after you get an idea of how it works, you'll see how you could actually use it to write your estimate from scratch as well. So like you saw before with the virtual scope sheet, to get into the regular virtual scope sheet, I would just double click on one of these areas here to bring up what we call the VSS to start adding repair items. Well, instead of doing that, I'll come over here to the top and click on this global button to launch the virtual scope sheet in global mode. So I'll click on that now. And upon clicking on that, you'll see that what we're looking at looks very similar to the regular virtual scope sheet. In fact, it's pretty much the same. The only thing that you'll notice that is different is scopes that have been selected already within the estimate are displayed in green rather than the blue that you would typically see on the regular virtual scope sheet. As you can see, we've got our repair categories on the left, we've got our main grid of repair items, and then over to the right we've got our drop down with the different visual aids that we can use while we're estimating. So even though the virtual scope sheet looks the same at this point, once I actually click on an item, that's when you'll see things start to get a little different. So let's imagine for a second I've got drywall throughout my estimate and I've realized that the price is off by a couple cents throughout the entire estimate. And just a minute ago I showed you how many rooms are in this estimate, so obviously I don't want to have to go back and open up every one of those rooms and adjust the drywall price within each room. So instead, I'll find the drywall repair. I'll first come over to the left, click on wall items, and here's my drywall taped and floated. And you can see I've selected a couple different scopes for drywall within my estimate thus far. Scope 3, which is the remove and replace, and Scope 7, which is the paint and finish. Well, the price I want to adjust is for the remove and replace. So I'll click on that Scope 3 that's already in the estimate, and that brings me to this global edit screen. So as I'm looking at the global edit screen, the first thing I notice on the left side is all of the rooms within this estimate are listed. And by default they're all selected. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clear that selection. Down here at the bottom I'll click clear, and that gives us a better visual of the rooms that we have in this estimate. Now you'll notice that the room names have some of them listed in bold here with an asterisk before and after, and then some of the room names are just in regular text, no bold, no asterisks, anything of that nature. And what that's telling me is the rooms that are in bold with the asterisks, those are rooms within the estimate that do have this drywall in them already. The two rooms down here at the bottom, the enclosed patio and the exterior, have no drywall in them at all. So in other words, what this is telling me is any changes I make to the drywall price here will affect those rooms that have the bold text and the asterisks surrounding them. So looking over here at the right side of the screen, here are the details for the gypsum drywall. So you can see that the drywall has a labor cost of $1.32, material cost of 50 cents, and no equipment cost at all, bringing my grand total to $1.82 per square foot of the gypsum drywall. So at this time I want to go ahead and change the price. I'm going to bump that $1.82 up. I'm going to bump up the material cost a little bit. I'm going to go from 50 cents to 60 cents. And when I tab, I'll see the change in my unit cost reflected here in the database unit cost of $1.92. Now this screen also shows other things such as the depreciation percentage for this item, what trade and subtrades it falls under, and the percent of quantity, meaning how much of the quantity of each room do I want this to be affected by, and I'm going to leave that at 100%. Just beneath that, the height of damage. If I leave that at 0, it uses the default height of every area within my estimate. If I click that drop down, you see it gives me different measurements in feet that I can adjust that to. But I'm going to leave it at 0 so it just uses the default height of every room. So I've changed my DB unit cost to $1.92. I'm ready for this change to now zip through my estimate and update the drywall price throughout every room in my estimate that has drywall in it. So before I go ahead and update, I need to come back over here to the left and select those rooms that I want this change to affect. So I'll hit select all, and then by holding down the control key on my keyboard, I'm going to go ahead and deselect those bottom two because they don't have the drywall in them. So therefore there's no need to try to change the price within those rooms because the repair is not even there. With the remaining rooms still selected, I'll simply come up to the top of the screen and click Update. Upon clicking Update, I get a Global Update Options page, and it's asking me to verify what piece of information about this repair I've made changes to, and as you can see, Unit Cost Info is the option that's checked. So I'm okay with that. I know that I've changed the unit price. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. The update goes through, and at the bottom of this screen I can see my original totals. Here's my RCV, the recoverable depreciation, the non-recoverable, and the ACV, my updated totals, so what my estimate totals are now, and then the difference that made. Now in this particular case you can see I've got negative numbers here, so my drywall actually went down as a total throughout the estimate because it's very possible that in this estimate I had some price overrides before that were much higher than the price I just entered. So typically, if you're bumping the price up, that'll be a positive number. So that's how I would update the price throughout the estimate. One of the other features here in Global Edit is I can actually remove this repair from all of the areas within this estimate as well. So with these estimate areas highlighted, the ones that actually contain the drywall at this point, if for whatever reason I needed to remove the drywall repairs from all those areas, I would just simply come up to the top and click Delete. At this point I would get a confirmation, delete item from selected areas, and click yes. Now all the areas go from being bold with the asterisks to just regular text, meaning that this item no longer falls in any of these rooms. And you can see the change reflected here down in my totals. So by removing that drywall from all these rooms, I end up with a negative $4,000 difference on my estimate. So I showed you how to update and I showed you how to delete. And now I'll show you how you can actually add this item to all these rooms using Global Edit. And it's very similar to the previous two functions I just showed you. So if I wanted to add drywall to all of these areas, I would just simply click Select All, navigate to the top of the screen, and click Add. That's going to add this repair to every one of these rooms selected, and it's going to add all this information about the individual repair to every one of those rooms, and I'll click OK. You can see the rooms are now marked as having the items within them, and I've got changes down here to my estimate totals to reflect those as well. And now obviously there was a reason that the enclosed patio and the exterior didn't have drywall before, because you typically wouldn't have drywall in those two different components. So to take care of that, I'll do what we did just a moment ago, which is highlight those two areas and remove this particular item from those two areas. And once again, they're back to their regular font, and the totals reflect what I originally started with. So that's the global edit mode of the virtual scope sheet. Like I said, it's a very good time-saving feature to adjust prices after the fact, or you could get into the habit of actually starting your estimates using this global edit mode as well. If you've got many areas and they have the same type of damages throughout, you can simply come here and just add that item to all of your areas at once. And the repairs that you add to each room will reflect the area dimensions of each respective room. So you can rest assured that your repair totals will be accurate. Once I'm done with the global edit, I just click Done. That returns me back to the virtual scope sheet in global mode. And once I'm done here, I'll just click Done at the top. And that returns me back to the scope of damage screen for my building estimate. And that's the global edit mode.